There was a time when I ate with the dogs. Yes, literally, the dogs. I lived in the streets after running away from abusive foster care. I was 14 years old with no one to call my own. There were days when I ate from the dumpster along with the stray dogs. I remember one time I spotted this big half-eaten burger. I was about to grab it when a stray dog attacked me. It tried to bite me, but I snatched the burger and ran for my life. Those years were the worst. So, it was a really cold night, and I could barely sleep on the park bench. I was trying my best to keep my body warm, but failing horribly. I only had one pair of jeans and a hoodie that was proving to be useless. I got up and started to walk to raise my body temperature. It was 2 a.m. in the morning, and the park was stranded. I preferred sleeping here than in those dingy alleys. Tough night, huh? I turned around and saw a skinny, average-height man standing behind me. I had no idea he was walking behind me until now. He seemed homeless, just like me. His clothes were in worse condition than mine. He was shaking. I looked around and said, "Let's start a fire." The man started to walk with me. We collected twigs and woods and stopped under a tree. I dug a hole with my hands and he put those branches into it. Once the flames started to rise, I felt alive again. The man crouched down near the fire and started to warm his skinny hands. "How long have you been living on the street?" "I can't remember." His answer made me sad and worried at the same time. I have to do something with my life, or else I will end up like him. Suddenly, the man looked right into my eyes and asked, "Are you feeling sorry for me?" No, I was... "Oh, you're worried you will end up like me. Well, I do earn from time to time, you know." "What do you mean from time to time?" "I sell, then I earn money and spend it until I have to sell again." I realized he is a drug dealer and trying to talk me into it, but I wasn't interested, so I kept quiet. The man then took out a small flask and offered it to me. "Here, take a few sips. It will help you." I couldn't say no because I was feeling very hungry at that point. Alcohol seemed like the only sane option to get me through the night. I took a big gulp and immediately regretted my decision. Whatever was inside that flask tasted disgusting. My throat burned up and my head began to feel heavy. As I fainted slowly, I saw that sketchy man smirking at me real big. I don't remember anything after that. When I woke up in the morning, I found myself lying under that same tree. The homeless man was nowhere to be seen. I tried to get up when I felt excruciating pain in my stomach. Blood stains were all over my clothes. I thought I had been stabbed, but as I lifted my jacket, I made a shocking discovery. There were big stitches at the side of my stomach. It has been cut open and then stitched back quite roughly. There was a $10 bill attached with a small piece of paper that read, "Sorry, but you can still live with one kidney. I had to take this deal. Be happy knowing you are going to save someone's life." So that scoundrel took one of my kidneys after drugging me last night. I was beyond words. I had no money or insurance to avail of medical attention. Tears rolled down my eyes. This world is too cruel to survive on your own. I looked up at the sky and started to scream and sob in pain. Seeing me behave like this, a few people gathered around me, but instead of helping me, they were just watching me like an animal in the zoo. One of them brought a cop who was patrolling nearby, and the cop took me to the station. I was interrogated and sent for medical care. Being minor and a runaway from a foster home made me noticeable that day. The doctors told me whoever operated on me wasn't a medical professional. Hence, my kidney was chopped off like chicken meat. I had severe internal bleeding and danger of infection as well. Even though I was traumatized, at least I had a bed to sleep in and food to eat during my stay in the hospital. When I got discharged from there, the cops decided to take me back to the same foster house. The night they dropped me off in that abusive environment, I escaped again. Not to run away from the foster home, but rather to find that prick who ruined my life that night. My only mission was to find him and make him pay for his sins. I was pretty sure he drugged many young homeless kids and later sold their organs at cheap rates to sustain his pathetic life. I knew all the spots where homeless people lived during winter nights. After a tiresome search and hours of waiting, the opportunity finally arrived. I was peeing behind a bush one night when I heard a familiar voice. "It's hard to sleep here on cold nights like this, huh?" My heartbeat got faster. He is trapping his new target, but this time, I won't let him do that. I peeked behind the bush and saw a young boy similar to my age sitting next to that psycho skinny dude. But this time, his health seemed a bit better. He gained a couple of pounds. Probably feeding yourself from the money you got from selling my kidney. I saw the man make a few useless conversations with the boy. He then inserted his hand inside his jacket and took out that flask. He offered the boy to drink from it, but before the boy grabbed it, I jumped from the bushes with a heavy tree branch and hit the man on his head real hard. In the unexpected, swift moment, I saw his eyes get wide seeing the wooden log coming at him. The homeless boy ran away in fear, thinking it was just another street fight. I then dragged his senseless body behind the bushes before anyone else saw us. I have found this abandoned cabin in the woods. The man is still unconscious and chained to the rusty broken bed inside that room. It's only a matter of time. Soon he will wake up and notice one big stitch in his stomach. I am going to buy a sweater for myself with the easy money I just made selling his one kidney. And then I will buy a pair of shoes with his heart, a sleeping bag with his lungs, and save the cash by selling his eyes, liver, and brain to some medical students. It's funny how I ran into them through a drug dealer friend of mine. These students buy human organs for their research and experiments, or sometimes sell them to big hospitals or donors in need. I can't wait to see the look on this man's face once he wakes up and realizes someone else is the predator now, and he has become his victim. Hey guys, I hope you're enjoying the video. If so, please leave a like. And also, a small percentage of people that watch my videos are actually subscribed. If you want to support this channel and make this channel reach the 1 million mark, please consider subscribing. It's free and you can change your mind later. Enjoy. My life is that of an ordinary man. I work in a boring office, work my hours as quietly as possible, and then go home. I always take the same train, go the same way, buy myself a candy in between, and arrive home tired, getting ready to repeat the same routine the next day. I have no great aspirations in life, only to see my children grow up and live as relaxed as possible without bothering anyone. For as long as I can remember, it has always been this way. And no matter what I have lived through, none of us has changed. Still, people question my lifestyle, telling me that I will never know what life is really like, that I am doomed to a boring and irrelevant life. They think that nothing interesting can happen to an ordinary man. I wish they were right, but unfortunately, they are wrong. It was a warm summer afternoon last year. I left my house on the regular schedule, and it looked like it was going to be another routine day. I took the train home, and by the time I left the station, it was already dark. As usual, I walked home. Even though it was 15 blocks, it went by pretty fast since I enjoyed some air after being at work all day. Everything seemed normal until 10 blocks from my house. I noticed a man walking a half a block behind me. Normally, this would not attract my attention. Everyone has the right to walk. But there was something about this man that I did not like. His gaze was on me as if frozen. I was trying not to turn around to make it too obvious that I was looking at him, but I couldn't help it. The man was homeless. I could tell by the clothes he was wearing. His pace was getting faster and faster as we got closer and closer to my house. The streets were completely empty. They seemed to be made just for the two of us. After walking 2 blocks and seeing that he was still following me, I decided to speed up my pace. After walking fast, almost running down the street, I took advantage of a passing car to turn around with the excuse of looking at him. And when I saw him, I was terrified. Not only had I lost the man, but he was even closer than before. My first impulse was to run, but it would be too obvious. I decided to keep walking around the corner, and as I came around a curve, I turned and accelerated my pace while the man had lost sight of me. A few seconds later, he was already turning in my direction. We were getting closer and closer to my house, and I wasn't going to let this man know where I lived. So I just stood there, leaning against the wall with a big rock in my hand, waiting for him. The man walked naturally past me. I noticed some hesitation in his walk. If he wanted to do something to me, he had lost his chance. I stayed leaning against the wall until the man turned again, walking slowly away. Calmer, I returned to my house, taking another route, still waiting to meet this person again. Arriving home, everything went on like an ordinary day. My wife got off early, so she decided to make dinner on her own, which suited me fine since I was particularly stressed that night. I decided not to tell them about my incident with the homeless man, as it would only worry my family. By nightfall, I fell into bed devastated, and as quickly as I lay down, I had already fallen asleep. I consider myself a very deep sleeper, so I rarely wake up in the wee hours of the morning. When I woke up, I didn't have time to check the time or try to continue sleeping, since I had cold metal resting on my neck. "You move 1 centimeter and I'll slit your neck open like a fish." That raspy voice was not from anyone I knew. My eyes were still trying to adjust. "What? Who are you?" I answered, still confused and scared in a sleepy voice. When I realized what was happening, I remembered that face. That was the homeless man who had followed me a few blocks before arriving at my house. He probably followed me from behind without me seeing him, and he surely saw where my house was. I opened my eyes wide and froze, preventing this man from reacting in a bad way and stabbing me with the rusty knife that was caressing my throat. "Now you are going to get up very slowly with me and give me all your money," he said carefully. As he spoke, his putrid breath almost made me vomit. His voice was trying to convey confidence, but he was clearly very hyped up. Those eyes were not normal. He had consumed some kind of drug before entering my house. This man was dangerous. Any false move, and I could end up dead. The man slowly walked me to where we kept the money, in a box in the closet. I didn't really have any money hidden. I just needed to make time for my wife, who was faking being frozen in fear, to finish taking the revolver from under the bed. "Hey, you woman, stay still. I'm watching you. One false move, and not only will you be left without a husband, but I'll kill you and your children."
I'm standing still. Please don't do anything to him. Just take the things and leave.
"We don't want this to end badly. We're not trying to do anything strange." When the man got distracted listening to my voice, my wife took out the gun and tried to shoot. But because of her nerves, she forgot to take the safety off, so the gun didn't work. Taking advantage of the situation, I pushed the man and ran in the direction of my children. But the man stopped me and stuck the knife in my feet. Furious, he started punching me savagely in the face. Several of my teeth began to fly out as the man continued to beat me. My wife was witnessing the whole thing, but she couldn't shoot as she would hit me too. In a moment of sobriety, my wife shoots near the man and scares him off, stopping his blows that if they continued for a few more seconds, were going to kill me. The man ran off to another room, and when we chased him, we saw the homeless man standing in front of the stairs, knife in hand, pointing at our daughter's head. "You shouldn't have done that, you stupid fools. You shouldn't have provoked me. I was just going to take the money and leave." Calm down. Let the girl go. This is not going to end well for you if you don't," I said with the little strength I had left.
Think about it. What's left for you if you hurt her? You won't be able to protect yourself, and I assure you that I will kill you.
"I don't care if you kill me. This little girl will go with me, and it's only because of you." While he was saying that, he caressed our little girl's head, and my wife could not stand it. She tried to shoot him in the head. The bullet missed, but in shock, the man fell down the stairs, grabbing my daughter. My wife went running with the gun, but worried about my daughter, while I crawled in pain, summoning superhuman strength just to find out if my daughter and wife were okay. When I arrived, I saw my wife crying under the stairs, my daughter crying with her arm out of place, and the dead man with a pool of blood around his head. After that day, I kept doing the same routine and going back the same way. But something had changed. From now on, I look around obsessively and I am much more trained. It cost me to get out of the routine to add a new activity to my life. But every time I think about that night, I feel like I have to do it. Because the only thing that caused that pool of blood to be the homeless man's and not my daughter was that she was lucky.
At the beginning of last winter, a series of financial problems led me to be homeless. The first days in that situation were the hardest, but even so, I managed to live for a while in those conditions until another problem arose: the cold. Winter was beginning to show as temperatures were dropping, and I barely had a sweater to keep me warm. During one of those difficult days, I met Dinah, a homeless woman like me. She helped me in every way she could, but still, the cold was slowly killing me. One afternoon, some cops saw me and said there was a homeless shelter nearby. I didn't have to think much about it. I decided I would go there because anything was better than living outside in the cold. But Dinah thought otherwise, since she told me not to go because I was better off here. "We're gonna freeze to death, Dinah. It's okay if you don't want to go, but I will." Despite Dinah's warnings, the next day I headed to the shelter. To my surprise, the place looked nice from the outside, which was more than I expected. There, I was kindly received by a man named Axel, who was one of the people in charge of the shelter.
"What is your name, young lady?"
"Jenna. Nice to meet you."
"Yeah, really nice."
After that comment, the man carefully looked me up and down. At that moment, Axel's attitude seemed strange to me, but when he took me to what would be my bed, I completely forgot about it. The place was a clean and spacious room in which there were several beds, but no one else was there.
"You're lucky you've got a room where you'll be alone for the moment. Enjoy it."
I was so pleased by the kindness that I convinced myself I had misunderstood Axel's strange attitude. The man was nice and polite, which was also shown in his neat and well-groomed appearance. In his big, dark eyes and sincere smile, you could see that he was a good person. And those dark circles under his eyes just indicated how hard-working he was. The next few days I spent in the shelter were fantastic. I had food, I was protected from the cold, and they treated me well. Besides, Axel would come up to me from time to time to see how I was doing. I even had the opportunity to meet and talk with other homeless people, which made me feel understood and supported. But the more I talked to them, the more I realized that something strange was going on. Many of them complained about how dirty the shelter was, about how crowded they were in the rooms, about the rats and insects that walked near them, and about the treatment they received from those in charge. I don't get it. At that very moment, I saw how Axel was staring at me from afar, which scared me. What is happening? Why am I getting special treatment? I didn't have an answer to these questions, but at least they helped me to be more alert. That was how I realized that throughout the day, Axel followed me and kept his eyes on me. At first, I thought it was a coincidence, but it wasn't. Every time I moved out of his field of vision, within minutes, he was back close enough to keep an eye on me. As with most days, at some point he approached me. I tried to make the fear inside of me not noticeable.
"Are you okay, Jenna? You look nervous."
I tried to act as natural as possible, but I could see something different in his big, dark eyes. They seemed expressionless, without that kindness that they had shown in the beginning. That's when I decided that I would leave the next morning. When it was time to sleep, I went to my room, trying to mislead Axel to take his eyes off me. Apparently it worked, because there was no sign of him by the time I entered the room and closed the door. Since I felt threatened, I placed one of the beds in front of the door, to prevent anyone from entering. Despite being as protected as possible, I forced myself not to sleep, at least for this last night that I would be in the shelter. Hours passed with no sign of anyone wanting to break in, so inevitably, I let my guard down and fell asleep.
Stupid bitch. Did you really think you'd escape?
I didn't even have enough time to fully wake up and react, because a few seconds after he had spoken, I was hit on the head and passed out. My hands were tied, and my eyes and mouth were covered. That was the next thing I knew once I regained consciousness.
I can't believe this bitch wanted to run away already. Yeah, Elsa was very upset. She didn't want to do this suddenly. You know, she likes to prepare everything. Shit, of course I know, Jonathan. So I hope this girl is as good as you think.
I panicked after hearing the conversation between the men. I recognized one of them by voice. It was Axel. Due to the movement around me, I knew I was in a vehicle. I had no idea where they were taking me or what for, but the worst thing was that I couldn't do anything. After some time, the vehicle stopped.
Hey, little bitch. Wake up.
One of the men took my arm and made me get up. It was really cold outside. Still unable to see, I was led into some kind of building. Due to the voices, I could tell that there were several people inside. Axel, Jonathan, I hope it's worth bringing us all here at this hour.
Definitely.
When the blindfold was removed, I could see a large group of people. Each of them looked well-dressed and groomed, but the thing they had the most in common was the way they saw me. It was like everyone wanted me in a sick way. It was clear in their eyes how much they wanted to possess me. She seems perfect. The woman in front of me must have seen the fear on my face because she soon looked at me with concern. Oh, darling, don't be afraid. We're not going to do anything inappropriate to you.
You see, Jenna, today you will be our food. Our food.
You must taste so good, darling. Too good. I remained still. It couldn't be true, but it was. A group of sick people was planning to eat me. Don't worry, we will enjoy you a lot. Axel, take her to the room. Don't forget to take good care of her. This time, I definitely had to escape, so I started thinking about how to do it. I found the answer in those people. They looked very decent and had treated me with care, so I was sure that what they wanted was good food, without dents or dirt. That's why they had given me such special treatment at the shelter. Maybe my only chance was to stop looking so perfect.
I can't wait to taste you. Your type, young, pretty, and healthy, are the ones who taste the best. I picked you well. Come on. It's time, Jenna.
When the man started to lean toward me, I struggled and pushed him as hard as I could. Then I went to the window, and with my 2 hands tied, I managed to open it. Suddenly, I was outside in the cold of night. I realized that I was on private property in the middle of the woods, so I started to follow the cement path to reach a highway. Unfortunately, before I made it, I began to hear how I was being persecuted, so I continued with my plan. I walked up to a tree and started hitting myself against it, even though it hurt a lot. Give it up. It's not a perfect meal anymore. I don't know when I passed out, but I did realize that the plan had worked. They had left me to die there. The next morning, some people found me unconscious and took me to the hospital, where the doctors told me it was a miracle that I had survived. When I told them what had happened, the police came. It seemed like a strange story to them, but they still decided to investigate. They informed me that there was no one named Axel in the shelter.